Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri, and welcome to episode 166 of We the GamerCast. It comes to you on iTunes, Google Play, and mother-loving YouTube every single Monday. Thank you for being here, hitting subscribe, hitting thumbs up, and joining me. Thank you for just sharing and leaving a comment on the video. Everything you guys do is amazing, especially all the people who support us at patreon.com/makeusbetter, like our platinum executive producers, Mr. Corey Hicks at twitch.tv/chicks_18, and Mr. Mark Moody at youtube.com/outoflives. More on him in just a second. Our gold executive producers, Mike BC and Panache Malloy, and our executive producers, Steven Iafrate, JoeySplats, Caro, Underwood, Dante, Bellini Jr., Jared Gauthier, Dude427, Kevin Austin, Josh Borbone, Tammi Ryan, Robert Bobby Miller, Tim Aulph, Martini Jean, David Ray, Jesse Armstrong. I try to do that a little bit from memory, and every now and then I get a little tripped up, but you guys can probably hear that. If you're new, guys, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet, and if you want to be on the show, it's very easy. Just tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. That's the whole like rigmarole at the start. Guys, I have a great chat. This is probably the one that I've been looking forward to sharing with you the most in a long time. I had this conversation last weekend, and Ally is probably one of the most intelligent people I've had the privilege to speak to. So this week is another special episode of We the GamerCast. We talk about everything this week, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Many of you have been following along this whole week. Some news about the Xbox Drive drop this week. That show is on hold. It's on, I don't even know what it's on. It's not happening right now. I don't have a whole lot more to share with you guys on that. I sort of like creepishly tweeted out a thing from the Xbox Drive's Twitter account of the $6 million man like being rebuilt. We will rebuild it bigger, stronger, faster. And the most honest truth with you is I have no idea when or what or how or what it all looks like. And it has been weighing on me so much ever since I even tweeted that out. It sucks, man. It's just in general, like this last week has been it's been challenging. It's been, even though when I announced it, I had a lot of great, I mentioned this on If You're at Nintendo on Friday with Bobby and Jason. Tons of positive support, which oddly enough just sort of makes it all that more confusing. A lot of love for the Xbox Drive. I had probably the most fun doing that. Like this is a different type of show. I don't necessarily know if this is the fun show. It's a great show. I think I'm equally as proud of We the GamerCast as I am If You're at Nintendo and the Xbox Drive, but they're all different. They're like children, I suppose. And it sucks. My heart is aching about this. So I don't know what to do about it. Rest assured that it's probably affecting my day-to-day, honestly, ever since. It weighs on me big time, man. I don't know what I'm doing. And ask Chelsea, I'm thinking about it every moment. So I was hoping to, on Friday on If You're at Nintendo, I had mentioned I would probably talk a little bit more about the situation and what everything happened, and I'm not going to do that today. I probably won't ever do that, actually, because I'm running through 1,000, I'm like Doctor Strange, running through a billion different scenarios, and I'm trying to figure out which one ends up to the most positive outcome. And so that's the Xbox Drive for you guys. I really want to thank everybody for supporting us through the whole run of the Xbox Drive, and especially for now that we've missed officially 1 week. It's officially been, I can't even say the words, man. It sucks. So many people have reached out, so thank you guys so much. A lot of a lot of negativity, man, and I'm just trying to like rise above it, as my good friend Ray Osorio would say. So just, be kind to one another. I even got myself into some really just horrible situations, some bad conversations, whether it's with my good friends or just like lashing out at people on Twitter, or just like being part of a conversation I'm not normally part of. And it just affects me so badly, man. So I just need to recognize that in myself. But I'm just sort of rambling now a little bit. So I wanted to bring you guys up to date. Usually I'm like, oh, everything's great and I'm grateful and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, it sucks. Xbox Drive ending is one of the worst things ever. But today we have a great chat with my good friend Ally Mushka. And before we get to that, I want to let you guys know that Mr. Mark Moody had me on his podcast. And I wanted to thank you guys so much for that. You guys go over to youtube.com/outoflives to check that out. It went up on, actually, I'm recording this on Saturday, so it went up today. It went up on Saturday. Please go to the YouTube channel, check it out. I got to talk all about, like, gosh, Batman and Supergirl and Johnny Depp getting sued or something, and we were talking about Notorious B.I.G. It was great to talk about movies. For those of you who don't know, I used to do a movie podcast called Nerdflix and Chill, so this was awesome. Thank you so much, Mark Moody, for having me on, and I hope to go on again. Maybe I'll actually watch a movie next time. So that was great. Why don't we get into my conversation? This is one for the books. This is one I will remember forever and ever and ever. Ally Mushka, one of my favorite people on the planet, happens to be Canadian, happens to be one of the smartest people I've ever met. Totally genuine and kind, and I think you guys are going to love this chat. Follow her on Twitter. Let her know how much you appreciate her and how much you love this chat, because I know you will. So you might as well just go ahead and do that now. At That Little Fly. Also, wait to the very end to discover why that is. It's going to blow your mind. It blew my mind. It gave me a nosebleed. I went cross-eyed. Here she is, Ally Mushka.
It's just like one of those things where I had like an old Skype account back in the day and then like got a new one and now there's two floating around.
Isn't that like scary? Like all the old accounts that like we have just like that still very much exist in the digital space.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh man, somebody's gonna be able to like do like if you ever wanted to be a politician, like it's over. Like you can't.
I know. Oh no, it's like I think about that sometimes. I'm like, really? I mean, I had a YouTube channel, like I have this active Twitter and Instagram, like there's no way. There's just like there's no way. There would just be too much. People would be like, oh, this girl made like Dark Souls videos back in the day. Like, we can't elect her to the office.
Well, maybe actually the way things are going with like superhero movies being the right thing to do now, like maybe that is what will get you elected into office. Yeah. Like, oh man, this person's amazing. She made all these great Bloodborne and Dark Souls videos. Let's get her in there. She knows what she's talking about.
Exactly. Like, yeah, maybe the trends will change so much that it's like, yeah, this is the person that we need.
Isn't that nuts how things like worked out like that? Like, I wish that somebody could have at least like lied to us, like, because like back in the day, like there was no hope for geeks and nerds and stuff. It was just like, well, you're gonna be screwed for the rest of your life. But like even if somebody, and like that was the belief, I think, that it would always be like that, because somebody would have said, you know what, you guys just wait, you're gonna be the ones to rue the day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was like kind of stuff like that. I just don't think that we ever really believed them. Like they're always like, oh yeah, like there's always, those like when you're in high school, you're like, oh yeah, like yeah, the popular kids are popular now, but like just wait, like the nerds are gonna be really cool. And it was just always seemed like something that people just said to make you feel better about yourself.
Actually, it's so funny that you say that, because yeah, like I was saying that before, thinking no, nobody gave us any sort of like false hope, but you're absolutely right. It was yeah, those cool kids are gonna grow up. I bet that's something that repeats time over time again. It's
I think that's been around since like I hate like not to get like weirdly biblical, but like the meek shall inherit the earth. That's like a that's like a thing that people have been saying to like the quiet shy people forever, right? It's just like, don't worry guys, your time is gonna come. Mm-hmm. now might be the first time where like that might actually be coming true, although I don't know. I just feel like once a nerd, always a nerd. No matter how cool you get, you just and it's good in a way. It keeps you humble. As long as you don't get too bitter about it, keeps you humble, keeps you like
it depends on the nerd experience you had, right?
Yeah. If it was like really bad, then maybe. But I was always like, I was not popular. I was nerdy, but never picked on or bullied or anything. And I think that totally changes people's perception about stuff just because I had it pretty okay.
Were you quiet as a kid? Because I think you say like the meek and the quiet and everything. Like I was definitely like I was like fading into the background, just listening. I was always observing, and then like if I ever said something, people would be like, "Oh, Sean's actually talking." Now it's like I can't do that anymore. When you podcast, that's never gonna happen. But I basically didn't learn to talk until I was like 27 years old. I think like, it was a very late bloomer when it comes to that. Like, was it similar with you?
Not really. I mean, I think compared to like some of my other friends were definitely more sort of social and outgoing, but I was really smart in school. Mm-hmm. So I was like sort of like debate team, like drama class. So I was very vocal. I mean, it often came down to me. I was often the only one like reading the homework, so I would always be, up there with my opinions. But in terms of like socializing and stuff, I'm definitely an introvert, so I would never go to like any parties or anything. It would just be like me with my books in the evening. But in terms of like having a voice, so like people, yeah, I would debate with people or just be, because I was like an academic. Again, debate to you at like drama club, like nerdy things, but like nerdy, like vocal, outspoken things.
And I guess nerdy, but still like you still had like the groups that you would hang out even in those little like cliques and stuff. Because
totally, yeah. Drama especially was particularly like that was sort of my life in high school for sure.
What kind of stuff did you do in drama?
We did musicals, plays. We had competitions like. We wrote our own play one year and we competed in festivals. It's like kind of like what you would imagine like Glee Club, like Glee on the big show Glee, how they were like going to regionals. Like that was a big thing for us, regionals. Like I didn't do singing Glee Club, but we did like theater competitions and stuff. Yeah. And there would be award ceremonies. I remember just like the drama that goes on. Like one of the judges, like one of the years we did a play of Arthur Miller's The Crucible, which is, this big play, whatever. So I was the lead woman in it, and then my partner was the lead man or whatever. And I remember like the judge at one point would give us like a recap of our performance, and he would be like, oh, the male lead did so good and the female lead was okay. I remember just like I was like crying and like it was so dramatic and fun, but like so much fun just like to go on competitions. Like we'd have a bus and we like go places, and then we'd like it was a whole production. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's like the opposite, because like I always thought like because I just you don't know what's normal or what's totally like obscure and weird as you're growing up. Like for me growing up, I thought just like only American schools were like the ones that we saw on TV, where like they had these big like you said like regionals and like even like multiple floors and these big productions and stuff. But like that's what you're describing essentially.
No, we had that. Yeah, it's definitely I'm sure on a smaller scale, but like the Ontario, yeah, Sears Festival, Sears Drama Festival, we had that.
That's awesome.
I haven't thought about that in such a long time, but yeah, oh my God.
Isn't it amazing that like feeling that you get? You just think about like those like, and they're what, like 3-4 years, depending on like how you define like high school and where you are and stuff. Like
yeah.
It's nothing. Like 3 years, like in the blink of an eye. Like my wife and I have been married for 4 years, and it's like I feel like that just happened.
Yeah. I know. I can't believe that at this point, like I said high school, like, oh my God, 7 years ago at this point.
Where did the like studious sort of upbringing come from? Like that takes a bit of a natural sort of motivation to go like, I want to learn, and it doesn't matter if I'm going to like, or maybe it's just a comfort zone. You like to be in your room studying and stuff. Like where did that like work ethic come from? Because I have a couple things I want to talk to you about today.
Sure. I mean, my parents are both teachers. So
okay.
My whole family is pretty much teachers. So right off the bat, and then like my grandfather was an engineer. So right off the bat, and then also my family's like Eastern European. So education is like very important. And I grew up, with my mom, particularly. My dad always says that my mom was particularly. So my mom's a kindergarten teacher, so she specializes in early education. So ever since I was young, reading books, being exposed to things, being exposed to classes, like put in like sciencey camps or just like stuff like that. And I guess not everyone takes to it, right? But I really took to it and I really loved it, and I just always did well in school. That's another thing. Like everyone, especially when you're younger, I think everyone has their thing, right? Where they're just like, this is what I'm good at. So maybe a good parents or parents who are able to will expose their kids to a lot of different things like sports. I was like, okay, I was like a runner when I was younger, but sports isn't really my thing. But just school and learning, I was really good at it. I was really good, and it just brought me a lot of like validation, fulfillment. So then I just kept on it, and it's always been a super important part of my life. And I feel like especially now that I'm sort of more removed from it, people don't always understand that side of me, because in gaming it's not particularly like we don't have a lot of super serious academics. We do have some, but the background that I'm from is unique, I think, in a way.
Well, and it channels like the way that you describe games or talk about them or teach people how to play. Like even the fact that you are teaching people how to play. And I want to get to your Bloodborne videos in a little bit, but I wanted to ask because it sounds like okay. My first question is like, when did they start skipping you like 3 or 4 grades?
Never. I was in advanced. I was in advanced programs. But never.
Was that
skipped
strange
grades,
for you at all? Like, did you ever think like, what is this? Why am I doing this?
Weird. Yeah. I remember being pulled into a room when I was younger and like basically given aptitude and IQ testing, and no one really mentioned what it was. It was just like in the 3rd grade, you know, I was in this room with like this guy who was asking me a bunch of questions and like writing tests. I'm like, this is weird. But then when I got older, I kind of and then opted into more advanced programs like in high school and stuff. And then I was sort of more aware in it, but still thinking back, I'm still like, that's weird. They don't really tell you what's going on. It's like a weird labeling thing. Like I personally don't think they should do that anymore. Like,
well, that's what I was gonna wonder. That's why I asked the question, just because like the situations they put kids in, like one way or another, you don't tell them, and then they're doing something that like they don't really understand, but you do tell them. It's like, well, is that too much pressure for an 8-year-old kind of thing?
Right. Exactly. So I don't think they should, but I understand that there's like a lot of challenges in the educational system, and you want to give the kids who are performing at one level certain opportunities, and you want to help the kids who are maybe, you know, have other strengths or not performing at the same level. It's like definitely a challenge. So, but ideally everyone would just, you know, be the same. Then just like we would have programs that would suit everyone. But that was a weird thing of,
So at what point did you go, like, did it dictate like where you went to high school or anything like that? Because you were kind of probably choosing your education path a little earlier than most people really want to think about that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I also have just like the virtue of always having like a plan. So yeah, I mean, not really high school. It dictated what programs I went into high school, and I think if my high school hadn't offered this program, like it was this program called the International Baccalaureate Program, which a lot of people do now. So if my high school hadn't have had that, then I might have gone to another one. It certainly, when I was thinking about where to apply to universities and stuff, dictated that. So my whole life, I've kind of had been thinking about the next step very early on. So yeah. And then, you know, when I was in university, I started thinking about what I wanted to do post-grad, like from my 2nd year, and began planning towards that. So it definitely helps to have an advantage. Doesn't necessarily make you the most fun at parties, but like
well, I think it's fascinating. Like I think there's also this weird like fine line between like the professional student, right? The person who takes like 15 years to finish their undergrad and things like that, versus like somebody who, like, it just sounds like you've always had like a plan, but that wasn't like too far ahead. Like you always just had like your goals. Yes. It seems like it was
like a few years, like in the next like sort of like 5 years. Yeah, I've never known what it is, what like too far ahead, because I also have changed a lot. Yeah. So you know, when I was younger, I wanted to, I don't know, I think the first thing that I ever wanted to be was a lawyer, and then I got really into science, so I thought I wanted to do that, and then when I was in my undergrad, young girls. Yeah, exactly.
Pretty common.
Most very common young girls. Like literally, when I was in 11th grade, I was like reading like physics in the library when most people were talking about like the Jonas Brothers. Like I've always been incredibly annoying in that way. And then I switched around a lot in university from like environmental biology to more physical sciences, and then I ended up picking up a major in history and philosophy as well. So I switched a lot. And then when I graduated university, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then that's been kind of like 3 years of exploring the best options for me. So that was a point where I was like, I'm not quite sure anymore. But it's been good, this period of just exploring and trying different jobs and stuff like that.
So is that currently where you are? Like you've got your Bachelor of Science, I believe?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Did I hear, like, I don't know if there's a rumor, I've made it completely up in my head. Were you accepted to Harvard? Were you going to Harvard at some point?
Yeah. So I was accepted to Harvard Law School. And so that was kind of that was the plan. A lot happened, and I'm technically on leave from Harvard Law School for this year. So, yeah. Okay, well, is there stuff, is there stuff that I can tell you that is not necessarily going to be in the podcast or like for background, or I don't know how.
Ally, I'm really sorry to tell you this. This whole thing is the podcast. We're 20 minutes into the show. So yeah, whatever you want to share. I'm glad you clarified, because I'm like, it sounds like you're podcasting right now.
I just don't know. I just don't know if there's any like post editing or whatever.
No, this is pretty much it.
Okay.
We're halfway done.
So yeah, so I guess there are going to be updates coming to sort of my next steps about law school, basically in the next coming weeks. Nothing that I'm really sharing right now, but yeah, that was a big deal for me, and that was sort of the biggest thing. I think when you get up and you grow older, you start to think, like, a lot of things that seemed easier had a very clear path when I was a kid. And then part of being an adult is being faced with all these difficult choices and then deciding, okay, what's one thing that I really want to commit the rest of my life to? And I wasn't sure about Harvard at the time, but having this year off and exploring different things, and especially like my passion for games industry stuff, has been very, very helpful.
So then how do you, because man, there are so many different like paths and tracks here, Ally. So you take, okay, hang on. I want to take a pause on the whole, like taking a pause on Harvard, or even getting into Harvard. Like, what is that process? That's not something most people have experience with. So you're working up towards this as being a goal, obviously. And then like you submit your application. Like what's the application process like? I feel like for me, outside looking in, it's like, it's not even like application. It's like they pick you rather than you actually apply to them.
It's definitely an application. So for law school in particular, so it's a professional school, and you basically, there's a few steps in the application. Me getting into law school is like a 2-year process. Yeah. So one component is you have to write what's called the LSAT, which is my sort of my favorite little test, and that I now tutor. So I scored well on the LSAT. Scored one away from perfect, or the 99.94th percentile. So it's like, this is my baby at this point. I just fell in love with this test. And I think at a certain point when I was leaving law school, it's like, I like the LSAT more than I like the idea of being
okay, let's take a pause. I hate interrupting. I'm so sorry, because you're so eloquent and great speaking at this. I'm like on the edge of my seat waiting to like what happens next. But like for those of us like normies, like what is involved in an LSAT? And then maybe that can give us some context as to like why you like it so much.
It's basically an IQ test. It's basically a puzzle. It's a puzzle. It's a challenge. It's a game. I love gaming, and I love like logic, and which is why I think I like the games that I do, like Dark Souls, and I also like Hearthstone a lot, because they're very cerebral games. You have to be thinking about your next step. The LSAT is a logic puzzle. There's like literally a section that has logic puzzles, and then there's one section that's reading comprehension, which is a little drier, but still you have 4 passages, you have to read them and answer questions. And then the main body of it, 2 sections, are what's called a logical reasoning. So they give you an argument, and you have to sort of deduce with formal logic basically what's wrong with it, or what's the flaw, or how could you improve this argument, or whatever. So yeah, it's its own little logic test, basically. A lot of people think that it has like questions about the law on it. Right. It doesn't at all. It's not like it doesn't have any it's not a content-based exam. It's not like the MCAT where you study a bunch of biology and then you write this test. It's all just testing your thinking, and I like it a lot.
And so you ended up like wanting to be a lawyer all the way from being a little girl all the way up to this. Like, I feel like even that is pretty rare. Was there ever a time where you're like, man, maybe this isn't really like lining up? My parents, because I used to be strong in math as a kid, but then as like math sort of changed as you got older, like like grade 12 math is not the same as like obviously like they're throwing letters in there, you're proving circles and all these other different things. Like math became different, and also my parents really wanted me to become an accountant because of that. And I felt like as I got older, I felt like that's like being an accountant isn't necessarily like math. Like, even though that sounds kind of strange, it has more to do with like my big sticking point with accounting was that it can't, like, that their rule book is generally applied accounting practices or principles. And I'm like, what do you mean generally? Like, why isn't there, like, I thought this was math. I thought this was like, you know, you do this and then this is the outcome. Like, this is the equation and this is the solution. And I got very frustrated with that. So this thing that, like, I thought maybe I would want to be doing, or my parents or like the people, like the older people who were smarter than me said, you would be good at this. I discovered partway through that was not for me at all. Like, I'm very curious how you were able to kind of like remain so focused on law through all of the different changes. Like, LSAT is something that maybe you didn't know at the time. You would have come to learn it at some point, but you would have had to learn that is a thing and then still go, look, nope, I still want to do it, even though it's this weird exam that isn't law, it's this logic stuff. So yeah, I'm curious on the focus over the years.
Yeah, I think my main philosophy basically is I just always wanted to do something well. I wanted to go somewhere or harness my skills in the best way possible that would allow me to sort of be at the top of my field. And so I explored a lot of different interests, like in science or whatever. And then I trust my gut a lot and my instinct. And then I just got to a point where I analyze my skills and I'm like, you know what, I think that my skills and the best intersection of my skills and my interest is law. So jumping through these different hoops, I think that I could see myself in, 30, 40 years or whatever, being at the top of my career. Obviously, there was a point where I was like really in the midst of law school, and then I was thinking about all these loans where I was still like, do I really want to be tied down to this forever? Mm-hmm. That was my main question, because then I wouldn't have the sort of freedom that I had where I was jumping around. So although when I was thinking about my higher education, I was like, okay, I thought about grad school, I never really wanted to be a doctor, so I didn't consider that. But I thought about, okay, if I was going to go to more school, it would be law school. And then there was a question of, well, do you actually want more school? And then now that question is still, I guess, up in the air for now. But again,
I love that you're just so open and like honest with the whole, like, because it is like I don't know, it's always easier on the other side. You're like, well, I knew what I was doing the whole time, but there's such a fluid, and like you said, as you grow up and like then the black and whites become more shades of gray and everything.
Exactly.
Then it becomes a little bit more difficult. I want to flip to gaming, because we're gonna come to a bit of an intersection, as you say, with Dark Souls and everything else, but that's more current. Where, like, I could just imagine you playing like the simple games that the rest of us were playing, like the beeps and the bops and everything, and you're just going like, no, I need something more. Like, give me The Witness at 6 years old, please.
Right.
So, like, what was your kind of like upbringing with gaming? Where did it come into your life?
Yeah, so it definitely started with Pokemon, as I'm sure it does with a lot of people. I was, born in 1993, so growing up in a time where like the Pokemon cartoon or anime or whatever you want to call it was on TV, and then just falling in love with that culture. I was like, I really need to get my hands on a Game Boy. So got my parents to buy me a Game Boy. My parents, by the way, have always hated gaming.
Oh no!
I mean, in a good spirited way, but it's been a constant thing of I had to, really pry their teeth when it comes to allowing me to have consoles in the house. So
you're supposed
Game
to be
Boy,
studying.
which exactly, right? Which or just going outside and on all that stuff.
No, you're already 4 years old. You should be studying.
So I think when I was 6, I got my Game Boy Color, totally fell in love with Pokemon, and then I got a GameCube, and then I remember my friends were playing like Mario Kart and stuff. That was really fun, but I got like the complete, like when they were selling with my GameCube came like the Zelda collection, up until Majora's Mask, and then it had like a little teaser for Wind Waker. So fell in love with Zelda. It was just like a complete wild universe, and then also really Animal Crossing too.
I love it. Oh, that is completely opposite. I did not see that coming at all.
No. I'm like a huge fan of Animal Crossing too. My first ever all-nighter was, I think it was in the 3rd grade or 4th grade or something, where I just stayed up all night until I paid off Tom Nook's debt.
Oh my God, I love that. My first all-nighter. Like, usually that's like school studying and everything. My first all-nighter was in grade 3 playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah. 100%. And then I sort of had a craving for more advanced, mature games. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get an Xbox. And then I went on my own, like just took the bus to Walmart, saved up some money, got an Xbox, and basically like smuggled it into the house.
That's
And I
hilarious. How did you
started
even do
playing.
that? Thing's enormous.
I know. I just when my parents were out, right, just came in, and then I just put it sort of indiscriminate. My parents are not very good at technology, so I just put it indiscriminately. Eventually, they were like, "You have an Xbox, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Okay, whatever."
It
But
becomes this like in the house mystery. Like, wait a minute, what
yeah,
is that thing? I need to research this. Oh no, I don't have the internet. Dang it, this is too
yeah,
old. So
yeah.
wait, what? How did you like scrounge together some money? Like, what were you like? Did you have like a job at that point? I mean, high
I
school
think
at that
I
point?
think yeah. I never really had. I think like tutoring a little bit. Yeah, I think tutoring was my main job when I was in high school. I would just like tutor my friends. Like
I
my
love
friends
that.
my friends' parents would just be like, Allie's doing really well. We're just gonna pay her like $20 an hour or whatever to like teach you math.
That's really
Other
good. That's kind of
yeah,
like, that's what
so
Fortnite tutors are getting paid right now.
yeah, right?
Isn't
That
that
was
nuts?
wild. But totally, I understand. Like as someone who's like been tutoring forever, I understand like the tutoring market very well, and in whatever
Hmm.
form. Like it doesn't surprise me that there's a tutor for Fortnite at all. Like
Right.
there's like tutor for anytime you're good at something, like people want to like capitalize on this to like be like, okay, I'll teach you to tutor. Especially with video games now that a lot of people I think see it as their chance. At economic independence, rightly or
Mm.
wrongly, but the fact that children can play games and then achieve success in them and achieve an income, like it's certainly not necessarily stable, but if instead of learning math, your kid wants to, or maybe in a better way comparison is just instead of learning a sport and paying, for them to be a part of a football club or local soccer team or whatever, you're paying them for the development in video games. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's kind of wild, but it doesn't surprise me.
That's nuts. I What do you think? Because you mentioned kind of like rightly or wrongly, like
Mm.
so you start tutoring. I guess was it your idea to start tutoring and then offer it, or were you kind of like pulled out of the crowd, like, can you maybe help my son or daughter with this whole thing? Or like,
Yeah,
yeah, it was more like that.
it was definitely that. Then when I had and like when I wrote the LSAT and got a good grade, I knew that that was a marketable thing, and so I definitely created a business around
Of course you
that.
did.
But
Yeah,
but when I
you
was
wrote the business plan in your sleep.
right,
Yeah.
but when I was younger, it was definitely just like, oh, this kid is smart, whatever. Let's just like pay her. And I was like, okay, like sure.
So when did you start applying that to games? Because you have an excellent series that I want to get to with Bloodborne for Beginners, which I think
Mhm.
is one of the best, well crafted. Like, this is how you play
Thank
it, because
you.
it's more than just this is how you play it. It's more than do this to beat this character and do this to beat this character. It's like, if you want to if you want that, that's probably somewhere else, but you get like the whole, this is what this means, this is what is symbolic of something else, or even like you insert your own interpretations into what the game is. I completely fell in love with the
Thank you.
Bloodborne for Beginners, and you also like very, like your delivery of it, very calm, like very just like anti
All right.
YouTube. Like, it was just so
Yeah,
great.
yes. I know I am very anti you too, like in the tone that a lot of people do strike. Like I'm not, I knew that was never gonna be me.
You don't even
Never
appear
gonna
in the
be
videos. Like,
like
it's not like five
yeah.
minutes in, like, smash that bell, everybody. This is
Yeah.
Bloodborne for Beginners. Yeah, they
Yeah.
like gently kind of encourage people to use the hashtag, and like, let me get
Right.
into my deep, like probably the deepest analysis into Bloodborne that exists on the internet. So like, where did that, because tutoring and then kind of
Mm.
guiding people through like the Let's Play, I think are obviously very connected, at least from a similar sort of like spot in your personality. Like,
Yeah.
but there has to be a point where somebody says, or you have a confidence within yourself that goes, I think I can do this, or I think I should be the one to say this, because I like put my hands right at the start, go like, I don't know anything about anything. I'm terrible at games. I'm like average white guy on the internet. So like, just really nothing special about it. But to teach somebody how to play something, or like even about the lore and the world within Bloodborne, like where did that sort of come from for you? Was there a precursor to the Bloodborne for Beginner series?
There was. So I've by the time I made the Bloodborne for Beginners series, I have been making videos about the Souls games since 2015 on my channel, and had played, I think before I even started making videos, I had fallen in love with Souls about like a year before then, maybe. So I got really immersed in the culture, and I guess had mentors, I suppose. So there are a little bit of an old guard of Souls people, particularly my two inspirations are Epic Namebro and Vadi Vidya. Epic, who's more of a walkthrough guy, and Vadi, who's a lore guy. So there's this rich history of Souls and like this rich community. And then I became friends with a streamer, like one of the top Dark Souls streamers, who's also based in Toronto. So I really picked up, I just fell in love with the community and the culture. So had a lot of exposure to people doing stuff like this. And then I got an itch to, hey, okay, I've watched this stuff. I've played the game enough myself. I've become immersed in the culture. I now want to start creating my own content. And then I did, I believe, a Let's Play of Dark Souls 2, then Let's Play of Bloodborne. Then I made this video, the story, when Dark Souls 3 was coming out, I made this video, story of Dark Souls 1 and 2 explained. That was my big video. It's crazy, the feeling of getting a video. I think it's 300,000 views at this point.
That's nuts.
But
congratulations.
I remember, and then it just jumped my subscribers. Like I was hanging around 1,000 for a while, then it just jumped it to 5, and now I'm at 8. So that was like a big
now you're
deal.
a YouTuber.
And then and then I sort of was like doing a lot of stuff, and then I came back when I just had a bug. It's basically like whenever I have an itch to create something, I will. And then, Bloodborne was going on PS Plus, whatever. It was becoming free, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like inject a little bit of my knowledge. But yeah, it came from, I guess in any other way, I found something that I loved, and then I really studied about it and became immersed in it, and then I had the confidence to create my own stuff.
I love that, because so much of the focus on the Souls games, and I really am trying not to make an old Souls joke about the whole, anyway, that's another thing. Because everybody talks about, like, you hear Dark Souls and you're like, it's hard. And that's kind of it. And I've always, like, pretty much with any game, like Ori and the Blind Forest and Cuphead and a lot of these games that people use, like, the first thing that they use to describe it is the difficulty of it. And of course, that's true. Like, it's pretty undeniable. But what I appreciate about your videos is that, like, it shows that you obviously took the time to understand the lore and like the world of Dark Souls and Bloodborne, in addition to like the thing that's like right there in front of your face. And I think that that's what gaming needs more of. I'm not necessarily sure that if you look for it, it's always going to be there with every single game. But in those cases, like, they absolutely were. So maybe kind of wrapping back to getting engrossed in the world and just kind of immersed in understanding the lore. Like, were you able to, because for me, I played the game and I'm like, I'm just getting my ass kicked. I can't even begin to think about, like, what does the architecture mean? It's striking, but what does this mean, or what is this world? Like, is that just maybe how your brain works, that you played this game?
I think so.
It was hard, and you're like, there's clearly something more here.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just because I'm not like excellent pro gamer at like all genres.
Yeah, but you know systems. Like, you were able to break those systems down.
Exactly. It's something about the people who create Souls and the way that I think about life vibed, and I saw what they were doing.
What do you mean by that? I want to dive into that a little bit.
I guess just the architecture, like you're talking about, like, I sort of anticipated, what was going to be around the corner, or, I understand why they put the enemies that way, or I really understand the tricks with the light, or when they're trying to get you to look in a certain direction or become engrossed in one thing over there. And that instinctually to me was like, oh, well, I better turn around and look behind me, because there's a reason why they don't want me to look over there. And then, over there is something really interesting lore-wise and thematically or something. So whatever it is about the architecture of the mind of the people who created that game and the kind of thinker that I am really jived well together. And yeah, the fact that Souls in particular is very slow and methodical, and it's really about taking your time and sort of executing these strategies, which I think a lot of people are just like running like chicken with their like head cut off. You really have to be extremely patient, and you have to not let your emotions get the best of you, and you have to like pick it up and try again. And sometimes like I'll get into these weird loops. Like my friend like sat with me for like an hour or something as I was playing the Dark Souls remaster. I'm just like, I just can't get this one boss. I forgot the theory how to do it. I'm like, I just can't do it. And he's like just sat with me for like an hour as I just did this solo over and over and over again. And then eventually it clicked, and then now I can like do that no problem. But it's like you really have to be like a little bit of like a masochist or something. You just have to enjoy like learning through pain almost.
Well, it is the throwback, of course, to the old like Mega Man and everything like that. You're just gonna get beaten, and finally like, oh wait, I get this, and that's amazing. And I think that's learning in general, like not just necessarily with games. I remember a very specific moment in junior high. Well, I guess some people call it middle school, grade 7, anyways. And like algebra is becoming a thing. And I remember like it clicking in my mind, and just like I like ran home to my mom and was just like, I get it, like I understand it, and it was like the best feeling ever. But that's Dark Souls, that's like Mega Man, that's Bloodborne and everything. It's that holy crap, this didn't make sense. Like just a moment ago in time, I didn't understand it, and something changed in my brain, and now it totally makes sense.
It's really the best feeling in the world. And I generally just really love that you picked up on the fact that, from a PR and marketing standpoint, these games are sold, and their defining characteristic is that they're hard. But part of what I do is, trying to explain and sort of like illustrate the beauty that is otherwise sort of inaccessible if you don't really know how to play these games or whatever, like laying things out bare and trying to communicate that to the world. And I think that just goes back to a lot of who I am. Like just naturally I've always liked maybe harder subject areas or whatever. And it can be quite a lonely thing, especially when a lot of people don't really understand what your interests are or whatever. Like I'm never super, like I was always sort of a lonely kid and still am. But it's like, it's just communicating and being able to share and like, hey, I know this is like really kind of like abstract or difficult or whatever, but if I can share with you like the beauty underneath it, like it's just a really great way to connect with people.
That's really interesting, man. That kind of has me thinking about like teachers and stuff, because I think even just being a teacher can almost be like a lonely experience, because you're just trying to like, how do I reach these kids? And you just like, all you want to do is just kind of like have these breakthroughs, but you're inherently different. You're older, you have different experiences, and you're trying to like pass along this knowledge. Same thing with the Bloodborne and everything. And I've really kind of like gained a whole new appreciation. I've had a lot of teachers on the show actually lately, and there is that kind of like common thread of, you know what, I just want to be able to like pass this knowledge down. I want to kind of inspire and think beyond like the edge of your, like the front of your nose or tip of your nose. I always think that that's amazing. I can't dwell on that too much, because I do need to talk to you about how did you come across the OK Beast guys, because there was this great collaboration between the two of you.
I
and
love that.
Yeah, like kind of maybe, because I know what it is, but for the people who don't know, like maybe talk about the collaboration that you had with Blessing and Alex and all of that, how that came about.
Yeah, so Blessing and Alex and I, we all met because we were fans of this podcast group called Kinda Funny. And so they're like this entertainment industry, people like Greg Miller, who were formerly from IGN and then broke off and started doing their own thing. So I've been traveling to San Francisco a lot just to meet up with people like this. And they were also traveling too. So I met both Blessing and Alex at Kinda Funny Live 3 or 2, I think. No, I met them at 2. I didn't meet Blessing so much at 2. I definitely met Alex at 2. And then Alex and Ian, Blessing and Ian had me on an OK Beast podcast a few years ago. So just because once you're sort of content creator in the gaming, like IGN, Kinda Funny, arena, you just sort of get to know each other through traveling and through internet. And then their content started taking off. And then I have since become a fan of their stuff. and then was like, at this point when I was sort of looking to do something a little fresh with my content, because they have this really cool like production value and stuff that I didn't have, I was like, oh, okay, so for my new Bloodborne series, I would love to collaborate with you guys and just like create like a fun like opening cinematic, and then we can cross promote it on each other's channels. And that was really fun. Yeah, but I've known them for a while via the Kind of Funny community, I guess you could say.
It's a beautiful thing, man. I hope that those guys really know and understand, because I would have been at Kind of Funny too as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So my wife and I went down, and I had this big plan to like bring a big Canadian flag with me with like, but the Kind of Funny, like the smiley, like in the maple leaf. And I totally messed it up. Like I had like this white marker that just ran everywhere, and it looked like it was out of a horror movie, because like the dotted eyes were kind of tearing, and like the smiley wasn't really a smiley. So it's just like, if Kind of Funny went horror, it was just a disaster. So I wanted to kind of do this whole thing, and I kind of like backed off. And I, in my true like shy nature, I saw like these giant groups of people all meeting up. Like I was at the went to X-Men that week, and there's these big meetups and everything. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna hang with my wife, and we'll just be off to the side and stuff. I sat beside Franklin Sizemore, the Arctic Sloth, and just like that was it. I just kind of like a couple people, and I did not engage in the way. And this is the mistake, because who knows what could have happened. That's why this is my warning to everybody listening, is like, just man up and just go like meet up with people, because you never know, you're gonna meet like the next Blessing or the next Ian and Alex and everybody, or Ally. Like, it's just incredible. So the Bloodborne for beginners, let me understand like the collaboration just a little bit a step further. So like they did an intro and maybe a little like OK Beast polish on top of something that you had already done, basically.
Correct. Yeah. And they posted it on there. I just wanted it to live somewhere a little more permanent too, that was outside of my YouTube channel. So they posted it on there. I think they also made the thumbnail. And I posted it on their website, because I really love their website and its design. And so it just felt like a little more, it was expanding my reach in compared to like just my YouTube channel. And it felt good. But the content and like the editing of like the actual video itself was all just me.
So how are you?
I was basically like a guest contributor to OK Beast.
And that is perfect. And that's the sense that I'm getting from you as well, is that you're able to kind of like dip your toes into a thing, also be great at it, and then kind of go like, I'm good there, I'm going to go do this other thing. Okay, I'm good there, I'm going to go back and do this other thing. So maybe like a little bit of YouTube and just have like this 300,000 view thing. And then maybe I'll get into Harvard, and then maybe I'll also just try out like public relations in video games as well. So that's something that maybe takes a little bit more like dedication from a day-to-day standpoint, but like it seems to me that would be more something that a lot of people strive for in terms of like their main path. But this seems to be, is this more of a side gig for you for now, while you kind of figure things out with Harvard and stuff?
Exactly.
Is it okay to say it like that, side gig?
I think it is. I mean, it was basically when I got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't know about Harvard, so I'm just going to like back off, but I need something to do, because I'm like very career oriented. I always need stuff that's going on. So through traveling Kind of Funny and meeting people, I met a lot of people who were doing work in public relations in the gaming industry. And it wasn't something that I ever really considered, because I think a lot of your early exposure to the gaming industry is just the front facing people, obviously. So the people who are the podcasters and the media and the entertainment. And then I started meeting people sort of doing interesting stuff behind the scenes, like my friend Yusuf and Robin, who are at Ubisoft PR, and Jen, obviously, Greg Miller's wife, she's more like marketing and branding, but it's all sort of interrelated. So I was like, okay, I want to try this out and see how it is, because you guys seem to be doing really interesting things, and it may be a good blend of sort of my more business oriented side, but also my love of this industry. So when I decided to put Harvard on hold for a year, I reached out to all of them and I was like, hey, like, where would you recommend going to have a job? And Robin in particular was really instrumental and sort of gave me a lot of advice, because she's from Canada as well. And I also talked to Jen a little bit about it and just gave me leads of people who are in the industry doing stuff, and then I basically like went on interviews, and then I got a job. So I've been basically working in games PR for the past. I guess I got my first job in January, and then now it's so like 7-8 months.
Does it seem like longer? Is it a good thing?
It does seem like longer.
Does it? Yeah. Is that a good or a bad thing? I'm never really sure.
Yeah, it's sort of a neutral thing. Like it's just sure. I can't believe the things that I do in a year is kind of like, oh my God, I can't. That was only a few months ago, but like, so now I'm at a different agency called Evolve that specializes only in games, which is amazing. But before I was working for an agency that was sort of all around well-rounded, but I was particularly working with Microsoft and Xbox Canada. And that was just like amazing, man. I just can't believe that I did like all these like different things. I just have like a fortunate ability to do a lot of stuff. So sort of the things that I set my mind to, I can just accomplish. That leaves me in sort of awkward position oftentimes of like, oh, I need to figure out like what I really
right, because like the fact that you're good at it is not the sign. Like for a lot of people, that is the sign. You're like, oh, I'm good at this, I'll do this. And you're like, yeah, but I kind of am able to do like a lot of things. So it's just you get to be very choosy. About it. So what is, okay, this is kind of like probably one of the most like out of the interviewer's handbook, just like what is the most surprising thing? Like maybe a different way to put it is like what are some like misconceptions about video game PR? I think it looks incredibly hard. I think it's a ton of hours and totally unappreciated work and just a lot of stuff. So is that like, how close am I guess?
Yeah, I would say totally. I don't think people really understand I think people don't even really understand what PR is.
Sure.
Really. Or what people do. It's like, and then you really have to wear a lot of hats, especially in today's day and age. People are looking for consult on video. People are looking for consult on the aesthetics of their Steam page. People are looking for, obviously, press relations, and that's easy, but consultations on community management, consultations on when to launch their game. So you are really someone's advisor in a lot of ways on strategy. It's again, and I guess, well, this is how I view it. I'm sure other people view it in different ways, but it's a strategy. It's like the communication strategy, and it's not. I think a lot of people think that, especially in this day and age, it's like just social media stuff, or it's just like, but PR at its heart is like any public communication. So. A lot of what I do and a lot of what my specialty is communicating with the press, and so writing press releases and stuff like that, and setting up interviews and stuff, and going back and forth with members of the mainstream press, and then a little bit of like influencer relations as well. So PR is like a very varied field, and I feel like people don't know a lot. Like PR isn't the same thing as sales, so we're not trying to sell the game. Where basically our goal is to generate positive awareness. And I think a lot of people also think that PR people lie.
Took the next question out of my mouth. Yeah, like the whole like fake news thing. But I feel like the fake news, hashtag fake news has been around longer with video games specifically to PR. We're always reading these press releases going like, there's a little spinning going on there. Exactly.
And I think that really of course, other practitioners will have different viewpoints. Like I've been in meetings with people sometimes where I've had a conversation with them, obviously not naming any names or anything, but just where it's been like, why don't we sort of market the game this way? Like, and I'm like, okay, well, is that true?
Right.
And then they're like, oh, it's marketing, whatever. And I'm like, what? No, that's what people. And then I think we are experiencing. I think No Man's Sky in particular is one of the best modern, and as well with the whole loot box thing. But in the modern realm, especially No Man's Sky, people basically understand that the failure of that game was not the game itself, but it was the PR around that game. And this building of unrealistic expectations, people are really done, and people are really sick of that. It's still going to continue a little bit, but there's a real pushback. And what I think people need to understand about PR, and even some people who practice PR, is that it is a two-way model. So you are supposed to be representing the public as much as you are supposed to be representing the company.
Yeah.
And you are supposed to be the advocate between good communication and good relationships between your client but you also have a duty to the public as well, because if you piss off the public, it just nothing is going to go well. So a lot of our job, and I think the people who practice it well, is also having conversations with developers, having conversations with video game companies about, well, we can't really say that, or we shouldn't really say that, or even elements of things that they have in their game. We just advise. Of course, we never say, no, don't do that, but just this is going to be viewed some way by the public, and there's not a good perception to that right now. Mm-hmm. And so, we should think about it. And yeah, I think that's good PR. There's definitely good PR versus bad PR.
I feel like for some reason that No Man's Sky will end up in every single PR textbook or whatever. It'll be the case study. Where do you, if that's the case, even from an academic standpoint or from a storytelling standpoint, where do you fall on what happened? Because I think that some people fall on it was on Hello Games. Maybe some people think it's more on Sony's side. Are you able to kind of convey an opinion on what happened with No Man's Sky?
Yeah, I think it was, and I love Sean from Hello Games. He really talked very openly recently about everything that happened in an interview with Waypoint's Patrick Klepek and Austin Walker. And I think the way that he said it seems accurate to my gut. Basically, no one really wanted to be the spokesperson for this game. And so then he was like, okay, I'll do it. And then he started, going to interviews and just saying, does this game have this? Yes, whatever. I think it was in part him not knowing how to convey things clearly to the public or set realistic expectations. I think he fed into it, and I think he acknowledges that. I think it's part of the media who there were very few people who actually asked difficult questions or actually asked realistic questions. And then once Sony got involved, I don't think there was anyone there really sort of reining in or giving advice on what to say. And Shuhei Yoshida, president of the gaming side of Sony as well, also stated that, we made a mistake in terms of the PR in No Man's Sky. I know when they brought him out at E3 a few years ago, that really fueled the hype. It was just no one anywhere along that chain sort of stepped up and was like, hey, actually, we need to be thinking more realistic or narrowly about this. And they just let the whole machine. And then, of course, it's the fans, too, who are speculating about stuff on Reddit and getting so excited. And I think No Man's Sky is brilliant because conceptually it's something that harnesses the imagination. But I think everyone let their imagination run totally
That's
amok.
so funny. Yes, the people who it was designed to satisfy were the ones who ended up kind of creating those expectations as well. I love the way that you were able to kind of describe that situation from basically 4 different standpoints, and they're all, I don't know if it's equal or what, but they all play a pivotal role in exactly what happened. So it's almost like if only we had maybe just another 1,000 characters on Twitter that we could actually kind of convey this, because if you're especially back then it was 140 characters, you got to choose one side and that's it. And I guess that's kind of as I talk about PR and talk about fans' reactions to games and just the general conversation, that's why I like doing this better, because you can actually have a dialogue about it rather than I'm limited to, I don't even know if anybody does it consciously, that they think I've only got this many characters, but that automatically, I think in a way, forces you into a more black and white opinion on something than you would otherwise. So I just really appreciate the way you're kind of you know what, this is actually the way that it actually went down, and it's not really any one person's fault. But I do love the fact that at some point fans were all saying, take my money, and then everybody else is kind of thinking, I guess we just will.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
will just take your money.
I know. One, it took someone, definitely on the corporate side to should have stood up. But, as we've seen throughout history, throughout all industries, it's incredibly hard to do that, to step up and be like, hey, actually, or like in a way disappoint people, or in a way adjust expectations. Like no one wants to say, no, people have invested money in this. The pressures are enormous. It's very hard to be a good person, or I don't want to say like they were a bad person, but it's very hard to do the right and moral thing, especially when it counts. That's why I think everyone should just get in the habit of practicing doing the right and moral thing in a little bit in their daily lives. And then when it comes, if you're ever in a position where all of a sudden, you know, you're this indie game developer and then become like one of the most famous men in gaming in the world, then you'll have the practice to maybe, you know, do the right thing in that scenario too.
Yeah, maybe practice not sending death threats over the internet and all those kind of things. Is there any support the PR kind of plays for developers? Like if something bad like that, like was there anybody, do you think, for that team to go to in that situation, or is that completely separate?
Like in terms
like
of like
recovery, I guess, like crisis recovery.
Yeah.
Like,
So
man, this is bad.
A part of like one sort of specialty of PR is crisis management.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is it seemed really like, of course they were brought in with Sony, but it really seemed like they were just their team, which was I think 6 people or whatever at that point. I think they were pretty much flying solo.
Yeah.
So I think they were pretty much relying on, the sense that I got from the interview was that like no one else wanted to deal with it at all. Everyone was just like, Sean, like you are the face now. None of us want to touch this at all with a 10-foot pole.
You'll be fine.
We just want to make the games.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they had better representation, then certainly that is a role of PR to like help them work through the crisis. Even, you know, sometimes I'm even, you know, on the, or like fielding, being the first line of fire, and like some people will give me their social media accounts, or I've written, in response to crisis, I've written like things that people should post on their Steam page, or it's interesting too as well. It's like, it gives you an interesting perspective. It's like, because I've written, you know, stuff that the company said, things that they say in response to crisis. So just like getting like a behind the scenes look is interesting. It's like, no one knows that it's just like me, like Ally, like some girl, like just sitting at her home, like in Toronto. It's, you know, but they obviously approve it and everything, but it's interesting. But that, anyways, long story short, yes, that is a role. I just don't think they really had anyone doing that for them.
That's a funny thing that you say too, because like I do a lot of that sort of work as well, where I'm writing something on behalf of somebody else, and like when you get the responses back saying like, "Hey, X person," and you're like, that's really funny that like I guess I managed to, I don't know if it's a trick or just a prototype roll up that that person thinks it's from this other person, but that's a whole other thing.
Exactly. I mean, it's common, like, you know, even politicians and presidents, like they all have speech writers.
Right.
It's not them.
Yeah, and some, well, we won't get too much into it, but sometimes you can tell when it's them, and sometimes you can definitely tell when it's not them. But that's a whole other chat. Ally, this is possibly one of the most like fascinating hours I've spent with somebody on this show. Thank you so much. We have gone the gamut here. Cool. Right at as we close things out here, do you mind if you just tell everybody if where they might be able to find you on the internet, and also explain that Twitter handle of yours?
Yeah, so definitely like sort of my hub on the internet is my Twitter. So just go to @thatlittlefly, exactly like it sounds, on Twitter, and then you'll find links there to my YouTube channel, and I don't know what I have there. I have a website. I don't know if it's still linked there, whatever. Anyways, so my main thing is my Twitter. That's where you get all the information from. That little fly is basically an anagram of my name. So little fly, my last name Mushka in Ukrainian means little fly, and it's the Alexandra Tamara Mushka, that little fly.
Of course, it's something like mind-bogglingly crazy and intelligent. Oh my god, it's just like this little cute little thing, and then like, nope. It's got this amazing meaning to it.
Yeah, that's my brand, is like outwardly like cute, but like with a lot of depth also. yeah,
I think mine is also an anagram, just spelled the exact same way. Just Sean Capri. Right. Yeah, that's how I managed to do that. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your day, and especially on short notice. I really appreciate this chat. This was amazing.
Thank you.
I just realized that I recorded that first part with the baby monitor going like full blast, so I don't know if the noise cancellation got rid of that. Lincoln is still sleeping. It's very late at night on a Saturday night. This is pretty much the time that you and I get to have a little chat. And that's the way things go. Thank you so much to Ally at That Little Fly. You guys, I know you've already tweeted at her, so maybe just do it again. Show her a little love. Thank you so much, Ally, for being on. I'm going to be in Toronto in a couple weeks hanging out with my good friends from Game Moose Podcast. I am so freaking pumped. It's going to be amazing, just like the glorious movie show. Thanks again to Mr. Mark Moody for having me on the podcast talking about movies. Guys, check out that at Out of Lives YouTube channel. The music, of course, how could I not choose something from at least the Dark Souls or Bloodborne world? Dark Souls, see, I need Ally to say this word for me. I can't even freaking read. Conflagration. That's not it. OCRemix.org is where you find it anyways. Thank you so much, guys, for listening and subscribing and leaving a review. We're going to do something, I think, with the Make Us Better crew about, like, launching a ton of reviews all at once of the same shows and try and get us to crawl up the charts. Remember, I'm on If We Ran Nintendo on Friday nights on Bobby's channel, youtube.com/Nintendo Guru. I do stuff for We the Nerdy. I will be playing, I've been playing, oh my goodness, We Happy Few on the PlayStation 4 for WeTheNerdy.com. I've been playing it on Twitch.tv/Sean Capri. I didn't mention that at the top of the show. You know, on my way to affiliate, guys. That's gonna happen. I'm gonna get like myself some sweaters. Apparently, streamers get buy themselves gifts when they reach certain like milestones and stuff. So look forward to that. Please consider, if you haven't already, support us at Patreon.com/MakeUsBetter. And thank you to our artist Gary Gray, Adam Leonard. Adam working on some stuff probably for me. I hope you're doing well, Adam. And thank you to Antonio Guillen making the video all look really great. Thank you to Dayspace for hosting us. Otherwise, this is episode 166 of We the GamerCast. Now in your ears. Now it's in your ears and your eyeballs. Thanks for listening. I've got a couple of minutes here. I've got a couple seconds here, guys, because the music is still going. I gotta wait for it to kind of play out. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you think about like this? It's like a chapstick, but I've got like rubber bands kind of wrapped around it. I don't know why. I didn't really want to ask you about that, but like I had a second and it was just kind of over here. And good luck with your backlogs, guys. Whatever it is, I hope it's going well. And I'm going to see you guys next week. I'll see you on Friday. I don't know, probably Wednesday. Hopefully if Nintendo's up, we'll see what Bobby's doing with that. Who knows? I'll see you guys next time. Now it's time for Jason. Now he's happening. Jason, bye. Bye, Jason.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!